surgery right now. Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm going to call the September 17th, 2025 meeting of the Auburn School Committee to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll start down here on my right with introductions.
Dan Poisson, Ward 5.
Quinn Gormley, Ward 4.
Corin McGuigan, Ward 1.
Pam Hart, Ward 2.
Pamela Albert at large.
Pat Gaudier, Ward 3.
Jay Rich at large.
Calvin Vincent, Student Representative.
Amanda Kucher, Business Manager.
Scott Anier, Assistant Superintendent.
Thank you, everyone, and welcome. Adam could not be with us tonight, and Dr. Doris was not able to be with us tonight. She had a family emergency. So with that, I'm going to start with the approval of the consent agenda, which includes the approval of tonight's agenda, the approval of the minutes of September 3rd, 2025, and I'm going to start with a motion that we amend tonight's agenda to remove the budget calendar under the superintendent's report and remove the executive session at the end of the meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda with the changes to tonight's agenda, removing the budget calendar and the executive session, all those in favor? Motion carries. Moving on, do I have anyone here for public participation this evening? Okay. Seeing none, we are going to move on to our presentation tonight, which is an update on the Auburn Middle School Facilities Plan update. Mr. Anier.
Yes, thank you. In just a moment, I'm going to ask Stephen Frazier to come up and present some information about the progress of what's taking place with the AMS advisory. I just wanted to kind of give a backdrop of how we got to where we are to today. If you recall, back in the winter of 2024, an advisory committee was created after the master facilities plan was presented. This committee reviewed during the summer of 2024. They made some recommendations to the school committee. One of them was the creation of the facilities subcommittee, and also that was approved by the school committee, as well as the exploration of 6th grade to the Auburn Middle School. From there, the group selected Harriman as the architect and engineer of record that the school committee supported through that. From there, the subcommittee, the advisory committee for the AMS project was approved, the creation of an advisory committee, and then the membership came forth. And that work began in July of during this past year. We've been meeting every month, working with Harriman to develop the plan, the concept, the timeline, the scope of the work. And so that's what kind of brings us here to you today, so that you have a deeper understanding of the work that the AMS Advisory Committee has been doing as we continue. And there's some important pieces at the end that I'll follow up just to be sure that we're promoting the community forums. But once again, that's the backstory to where we got to ourselves today, always wanting to try to make sure that we're keeping you informed as well as the community informed. And with that, I'll turn it over to Stephen Frazier.
Good evening. Thanks for having me. Steve Frazier from Harriman, Senior Architect. And we're going to walk through the presentation. This is going to show up there, right? Spacebar. There we go. Quick agenda. So we're going to go over the project timeline of what we're looking at for design, and if it went into construction, what that construction schedule would look like. We've been working with the client to kind of define what the scope of work is. And that ranges from the basic work of what we'd have to do to make this a 6 through 8 compatible school, but also looking at, from their master plan that was done a few years ago, what are the repair capital improvement projects on that list that are also necessary to be done at that building, and how we'd roll those maintenance repair pieces into this project of 6 through 8 school. And then we'll go through the next steps of our journey through this process. This is the schedule that we're looking at right now. So we're in the orange box, which is schematic design and cost estimates, and we're working to get something complete around March. And that would give us until June to kind of make a decision on how this may go forward. And the construction schedule would be probably around 16 months. I don't think we could do it in a summer slam in one school year. It would probably take one summer through the school year and another summer to finish some of the stuff up, because there's a lot of that summer work that wouldn't probably fit into one single summer. And this is a list of the meetings that we've been having and looking forward. And as Scott mentioned, we have 2 community forums scheduled for this month on the 30th and next month on the 28th. So we'll look for community engagement involvement on that. The scope of work. The main purpose of the project was to look at the existing school to see the viability of adding 6th grade, so we'd have a typical 6th through 8th grade middle school. We started looking at the existing building and trying to fit the program that would be required within the existing footprint. And we did some schemes with that. We did some cost analysis on that, and working with the principal, we're a little tight. There were some spaces we were missing and some tightness trying to fit some things in that probably weren't ideal. So then we looked at adding a small addition to the left-hand side that was like 1 or 2 classrooms, and then we looked at 3. And it seems like adding a 3 classroom addition to the left of the building makes the most sense. It makes the program work really well. It retains the library the size that it is now. With the anticipation we're going to have 50% more kids, we would need a larger library. So that's kind of where we are, and we'll show you some plans. We're looking at the site and what work would have to be done around that to accommodate this addition. We're looking at the condition of the vestibule, which is not really an ideal secure vestibule, and that would be an opportunity to improve that situation to the standard that Edward Little High School is. And the roof condition there is in bad shape. That needs to get replaced whether this project happens or not. So that would make sense to at least roll that in. And that school kind of has the flexible classrooms with operable partitions between classrooms, and some of those are in poor conditions. So we need to evaluate which ones we would replace, which ones we need with the new program. And the mechanical systems in the classroom wings are due for replacement in the next few years, so it makes sense to replace those with this project. And there's a whole other list of capital improvement projects that we're in the process of evaluating to see which ones would roll into this project, or are they done as a separate CIP project. So that's kind of where we are in the evaluation process on that. This is a floor plan of the first floor, the bottom floor on the left. And that area of the building right now is mostly the old shop areas, which are really underutilized because they're not doing traditional shop programs. They may do some STEM type work in there. The facilities people may use that for building maintenance, but it's not used as the traditional wood shop, welding shop, metal shop like it was when it was built. There's also an art room down there that works well, but we have a better location probably for it. So the whole area that's kind of shaded with the single slash is proposed to be a heavy renovation. So we would pretty much gut that area out and reconstruct new classrooms, very similar to the arrangement that we would have in the rest of the building. So all 4 of the wings of the building would be very similar. And then the top left, where it says addition, is a 1 classroom addition on the first floor, and then there's 2 above that. The goal here is you're going to have 3 classes. There'll be 3 teams for each class. So we need 9 teams of about 5 classrooms to accommodate the expected population. So we'll see the next slide. The gray and the green is essentially 1 team. And this is the bottom floor on the right. So we've got the blue and the cyan, I guess, which is 2 other teams. On the right-hand side of the building, with doing the addition, we don't have to do much renovation to the existing floor plan. So that, when we're looking at the numbers, it made a lot of sense to do the addition versus doing more involved renovations in the building, because this way we're spending the money, but we've got 3 extra classrooms. So typically through the building, The only work we're proposing is to renovate the gang toilets. And there's a few reasons to do that. One is when we do a larger project, you have to spend a percentage of that money towards ADA improvements. And we think this is the best place to spend that money. The bathrooms do not really meet ADA. There have been some improvements made to them, but they're not really compliant, and the condition of them is pretty poor. So as part of this project, we would propose completely renovating those bathrooms to modern standards. So this is typical in 3 of those locations. This is the second floor on the left, and the far left shows a 2-story addition. And it works well with grade because the grade up at the top, that second floor can egress right out to grade without any added stairs. It also gives us the opportunity where there are kind of 4 pods on the 4 sides of the building. There are 8 science rooms, and we need 9 science rooms. So this allows us to build a brand new science room, which is kind of a more particular room than a standard classroom, because it's got, you know, all the utilities, the sinks and the prep rooms and stuff. So that worked out really well. And then you can see the red team, the orange team, and the yellow team is the only one that kind of spans either side of the stairs. They're not directly adjacent, but they're rather close. And on the far right of the second floor, the only work is the gang toilets. And then the last part of the project is on the bottom right, there's the stage, the theater, and a multi-room purpose space that's there with an operable partition. And the proposal would be to remove the operable partition and build a soundproof wall between the theater and what would become a more of a purpose-built music room. In the kitchen, there are proposals that we've been talking about for a year or so to add cooler and freezer space, replace the hood above the cooking equipment that's in bad shape. And because of the increased population, we're increasing the student population by 50%. The serving area doesn't really work well. It's not the most efficient. So we're working with a food service consultant to look at the serving area to see if there's a better layout we can do to make that more efficient, to get more kids through there and keep the same number of lunch periods that they have now. There's plenty of room in the cafeteria for the number of students. It's just not very quick to get kids through in and out of those lines. And in the middle area, there's some office space there. We're looking at renovating into more of a special ed area with a meeting rooms and a reception area. And then the big change is the whole locker room bathroom area, which is very underutilized. The lockers and the showers really are not used at all. It's mostly storage space. And those bathrooms up there too really don't meet ADA and are in bad shape. So we're looking at renovating the bathroom areas and just adding a single stall shower for those few kids that want to take a shower, minimizing the number of lockers, but providing some for the kids that do use them, and taking the top 2/3 of that locker room space and converting it into an art area. And it also, we have a little extra bonus area of a conference room up there that works well with special ed across the hall for CIP meetings, but it really becomes a multi-purpose space. A large art room that faces north, and a kiln room and a storage room. So those are really the proposed plans right now for the building. So the next steps are, we're still working with the principal to iron out some of the smaller program plan detail items, and we're going to continue that, probably have that done by the end of this month. And we're going to continue working with the client on really honing in on what type of scope they want to include in this project. And that includes all that list of potential CIP projects. And we've got 2 community forums, as mentioned earlier, on September 30th, and we don't have that on this slide, but I think it's October 28th. And the next school committee presentation's on the 19th. I think that's the last slide. Yep. So that's all I have in the presentation. I don't know if you want to add anything else?
Nope, I just really wanted to be sure that, to promote the September 30th, 6 PM Auburn Middle School cafeteria, that we'll be working on with Harriman, presenting this information to the community, bringing back feedback, and trying to compile questions. Some can be answered then, some maybe at the follow-up meeting. But really wanted to get that word out. We've been working with Liz Allen from the city on communications. Dr. Doris sent out a letter to the school community yesterday in regards to this project, as well as we'll continue to promote through the elementary schools and the middle school, and also with our partners at the city to be promoting that event, and really wanting to be sure that the community has an opportunity to hear and for us to listen.
Anyone have any questions for Scott? Yep.
I have two questions. Is it going to be also on the website, on this Auburn School, the Auburn School Department website?
Which parts? The short
part about
answer
the
is
forum.
yes,
The
but
part
if you
of-
have
the
specific.
forum,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. Also, I have a question about the architecture. You stated that there's going to be 3 additional classes, 2 on the second floor and 1 on the first floor. Visually, I can't see that because,
Yeah, there's a slope there, so on the bottom of the slope, we fit 1 classroom, and the slope goes up, so it works perfectly to have one above the lower one, and then the second one is basically at grade, because the slope goes up quite steep, and there's already retaining wall there.
perfect,
So-
thank you.
And I'll add to the community forums, that'll be a format likely that's, you can attend it both in person, or we'll do it remote. So we typically have better luck attracting more people that way and getting them engaged.
If that's the case, how are we going to notify the community about the remote? Will that be a Zoom, I'm assuming?
Yeah, it's set up like a Zoom typically. So there'll be a link, I'd assume, on your website.
Mm-hmm. And the community forum will include, like Mr. Wilson will give a presentation about kind of the why behind this and why it makes sense and why it's important to move 6th grade into the middle school in terms of programming, structure, curriculum, access to all of the other extracurricular activities and everything that 6th graders would then have access to, as well as a presentation from Harriman about the scope of the project itself and what that might entail.
And you said you're doing a new moving the science room?
We're there's a few science rooms that need some work because there's some water penetration issues, so that'll get fixed. We can fit 8 science rooms, 2 on each wing, on each floor, in the existing building footprint. And then one of the classrooms in that new addition will be a specific science room. So there'll be 9 science rooms total. Yep.
Didn't they just remodel them recently?
I
I
know
believe that was the casework, like the cabinetry and those kinds of pieces, yeah.
Yeah, I think some of those classrooms do have newer casework. Yep.
The new science room in the addition would be to ensure that each team has its own dedicated science room, so that each team, is independent in terms of all of the various curriculum that it's supporting. Any other questions about that?
I don't have a question, but I think something that came up at the meeting before this one is how this fits into the whole review of all of the schools in the community. And our facilities committee really came to the conclusion that nothing can be done until we look and move the 6th grade up. And then that will determine how we can move things around after that to make things more efficient and better for kids. But this is really the pin in the middle of it. So it's important that we get support for that, and then we can move on to do other things that Harriman had suggested or investigated for us.
Yeah, exactly. This is all part of the larger facilities committee work but from the facilities ad hoc committee that we had over the prior year, the priority that rose to the top that was presented to all of us back at the culmination of that ad hoc committee was that moving the 6th grade to the middle school was the priority. And then, and then all of these pieces were set in motion in terms of approving the creation of the current AMS facilities subcommittee, and so on and so forth. So the other piece, so then speaking to like the capital improvement project pieces of this, so in the original facilities committee report or facilities report that Harriman did for us, there were all a number of maintenance and capital improvement projects that were identified, some that were, more immediate needs, like within 1 to 3 years, some that were 3 to 5 years. And so included in this project or planning is the piece of the renovation and construction to actually physically fit the 6th grade into the building and the renovations that are needed for the building. But then additionally, we're also looking at, does it make sense to also then include some of those more immediate 1 to 3 year and 3 to 5 year capital improvement maintenance projects into the same projects, so that, if we're doing work at the middle school, does it make sense to just do all of the work that's going to be needed within the next, immediate number of years and have it be all managed by one contractor, as opposed to, doing this project and then having another smaller project and so that's part of this process, is evaluating, what rises to the top in terms of priority and needs for those CIP projects. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so moving on, school committee student representative report. Calvin, do we have a report this evening?
I do not.
Okay. And for the superintendent's report, Dr. Doris, we're gonna, like we decided at the beginning of the meeting, we're gonna move the budget calendar to our next agenda for our next regular meeting, but I believe Scott is gonna give us a transportation update.
Yes, thank you. So yes, transportation. To start off on staffing, we are at our minimum in terms of what we need to make all the runs happen. So technically we're down 3 drivers, but we have one route that's covered by Mr. Fontaine, one that's covered by a sub, and one that we'd already anticipated and is being run by Northeast at the moment. And that is the run for Washburn and East Auburn, I think. But it's just the one route that is taken care of. We also have capacity budgetary-wise, just so you know, for 2 more, and those just haven't been filled. And Dave is constantly working on the recruitment and also developing van drivers to see if they're interested in pursuing their license to do the bus. We do have double runs at Fairview Park and AMS EL, and this is done to prevent overcrowding and to minimize the duration of the trip. The standard is to be less than 60 minutes, and we are doing very, very well at keeping that under the 60-minute threshold. That's kind of the mark that Mr. Fontaine uses, as well as what I think we all can accept, like students shouldn't be on the bus that long. But really the big piece is to prevent the overcrowding, and so just really trying to look at that. So there are some double runs that happen at each of those schools. Bus rate is off and running. They're still working to get updated lists, but it is going and it is happening. Parents are responding well to its use, and we are hearing that they appreciate being able to track the buses on the routes. And just in terms of some personal feedback, I have ridden some buses morning and afternoon just to kind of really reassure ourselves that we're not overcrowded and that those times are under what we were hoping they would be, and they are way under. So that's good news from my perspective. And that's it. If you have anything else for transportation, I'm happy to help.
Any questions for Scott? Okay, thank you. I do not have a chairperson's report tonight, and Adam is not here, so no city council update. We do have the minutes linked from the finance subcommittee meeting on the 10th. Since Adam's not here, Amanda, do you mind giving us a quick update on that?
Yes, thank you. Dr. Doris has added to the agenda each month that she'll give the staffing updates, but she did give the school committee that 2 weeks ago. So there was no new staffing updates at the finance committee, but you can expect that that'll be in the minutes each month. We gave feedback on a Department of Education audit that the school nutrition program went through, and they received very good reviews. So I wanted to make sure to promote that with you folks. And really, it was a brief meeting. We went through the financial report for August 31st. It's a little low this time of year because most of our staff, their summer salaries are on last fiscal year, so you don't really see a lot in the September financial reports. But next month we'll have some grant closeouts, and we'll start to see more movement in our financials. We also expect that in another month, we will have our FY24 audit financials completed. And I did speak, I think, in the meeting about how we're having our FY25 audit earlier this year than we normally do. So we should, by the time we're budgeting in March, have more information even on the FY25 audit numbers. So.
Thank you, Amanda. Any questions for Amanda about finance? Okay. We also have the curriculum. So the policy committee just met yesterday. So those minutes will be linked on our next agenda. And then the curriculum subcommittee agenda and minutes are linked from the 3rd. Corin, do you mind giving us a quick summary of the curriculum subcommittee meeting?
Certainly. We went over the professional development calendar, and Dr. Doris went over the theme for this year, which is communication is key. So that was pretty neat to talk about. And then we went over the curriculum evaluation cycle. All the curriculum is on a fairly tight schedule, 5 years, where it's like implementation, review, a whole slew of stuff, which I can pull up if anybody ever needs that. And this year, the literacy curriculum evaluation is on the docket. And so what happens is we'll get a review committee together, and that should be completed in October. And then they'll go through all the steps and make a recommendation if they want to do any changes in April.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for Corin? Okay. The facilities subcommittee met on the 9th, and there really isn't anything additional in those minutes that you didn't just hear tonight with this presentation. Scott, do you mind giving us just a quick update on the EL fields, though? Because that was the only other thing on that agenda, or minutes, that hasn't been discussed.
Yes, certainly. Thank you. So one of the pieces that had been part of the new construction project for the high school was the implementation of having all the fields on site. I think it was pretty easy to be able to see that the stadium was there, but there was all sorts of other work that was happening. And the first priority was to get the multi-purpose field, the grass field that sits beside the stadium, up to spec and up to working for our sports teams for the fall. We had numerous discussions with the contractor and with Dudley. Lots of evaluations of materials and measurements and testing. And so we are being able to use the field for the months of September and October. We'll come back and reevaluate. Did it hold up? Did it meet the conditions that we had hoped? Did it meet the conditions that the contractor had hoped for? And so we are on mark with that. The feedback I'm getting is it's working, and the field is in good shape, and it's being very, very well used by our sports teams, which takes some pressure off of the scheduling. So we'll meet again at the end of the fall season, as well as we'll continue to have the discussions. Work has continued on the softball and baseball fields. There's been work that's been happening. Similar, we were in the same situation of examining the materials and the testing and the layers there. So we put the priority on the multi-purpose field. We will come back and examine and then figure out the next steps for those fields, with fingers crossed and weather and winter on our side, to be at the place of hopefully being able to have softball and baseball there. Possibly, we're not sure yet. We still just have to see how the fields are responding with the work that's being done.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Scott? Okay. And then the AMS Advisory Committee just met this evening prior to this meeting, so those minutes will be linked on the next agenda. So moving on to old business. I'll entertain a motion to approve AUB CHCAA Student Handbook for a second reading and approval. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Pam, do I have a second?
Second.
Pat? Any questions, discussion on this policy? This one just had minor changes, just basically changing the original policy to be singular rather than plural. Okay. All those in favor of approving policy AUB CHCAA Student Handbook for a second reading and approval? Motion carries. I'll entertain a motion to approve AUB BE School Committee meetings for a second reading and approval. Do I have a motion? Corin, do I have a second?
Second.
Pam? Any questions, discussion on this one? Again, these were all things that we discussed at our last meeting. This is just clarifying our school committee regular meetings with the exception of February and April and July. Do I have any discussion? All those in favor of approving policy AUB BE school committee meetings for a second reading and approval? Motion carries. I'll entertain a motion to approve AUB BBAB school committee self-evaluation for a second reading and approval. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Pam, do I have a second? Corin? Any questions, discussion on this? This is just adding our school committee self-evaluation policy, which we did not have previously. So all those in favor of approving policy AUB BBAB school committee self-evaluation for a second reading and approval? Motion carries. And that is all we had for old business. We do not have any new business tonight. All of our upcoming meetings are linked with our next regular school committee meeting on October 1st. Do I have any future agenda items or requests for information? Yes, Scott.
So Dr. Doris and I met with the city manager today, and he wanted it on your radar. It was just from this morning. October 6th would be a joint workshop with the city council to review the audit report or have the presentation of the audit report. So it would be a joint workshop on October 6th. And so that was as recently as this morning, and where timing is so tight, I just wanted to get that out in front of everyone. I'm sure Dr. Doris will do some follow-up with all of you, 5:30.
Okay, that was going to be my next question. What
Thank you,
time?
Jay.
Okay. October 6th at 5:30. Right now, we have a health and safety subcommittee meeting on October 6th at 5, so we'll probably look into trying to reschedule that. Okay, any other requests for information or agenda items? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Pam, second. Corin, second. Okay, all those in favor? And we are adjourned at 6:33. Thank you, everyone.